when talking about home building, this is, I mean, 3D printing in general is, when you look at like the vast span of history of building materials, I mean, humans have been building things, presumably since we came out of the trees and started walking on two legs and needed a place to stay, So, in the vast history of building materials, this is very new on that linear progression, as is just 3D printing in general. So you have, you have modular home building, you have container homes made out of shipping containers, prefabricated home building or prefab homes, light gauge steel, usually used more for like commercial applications, I guess you could say. And then of course you have traditional like stick framing home building. So why 3D printing? What benefits does 3D printing of homes give us that these other methods don't? And what makes it the best choice? And is it the best choice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, from a financial and structural standpoint, I would say that having something in concrete, is going to stand the test of time against, your traditional wood structure or metal housing, with the wear. It's also depending on the environment that you're living in and your house is in. The one really amazing thing that we've been realizing working with the concrete is that it'll not only stand the test of time, but we are able to create forms and shapes that you normally wouldn't be able to create by hand. So whether we're working with a dome shape or more of a curved edge wall, we can work with the natural environment. So that way in areas, like Louisiana or in Florida, where there's a lot of hurricanes, and we're able to, make the home more geodesic to create more of a larger strength integrity for the building, and it'll hold up against certain storms and stuff like that, or flooding. Your house isn't going to float away or get damaged or rot from it being floating. All your things inside will, but the structure itself will still be sound. And that's just from, like a safety thing. Like you said, we've been developing things for safety ever since we could get out of trees. So it's all about protecting ourselves. And so to have something that's that hard of a foundation is really important. And then just the cost alone, having someone build and having a team of builders there to produce a timber frame home, in the materials that you're buying, and not only to speak on like a planetary sense of all the wood that we're using and like all this insulation that we're creating, when we can 3D print something on a crew of 10 people, and then we can insulate. So even if your house is bigger than our 20 by 20 set, we can move the printer as we go because it's on wheels. And that way, when we pour our aircrete, which will be the lining that goes in between the interior and exterior wall, per foot has an R value, can't quote me on this, but I think it's something like 29, which is higher than your standard R value insulation that you put inside your walls, which is like, full of fiberglass and all this other stuff. And then the aircrete itself will make the structure more monolithic. So if there's any breaks or seams, it'll fill everything together as one structure and make your building one monolithic thing, which is, incredible. So in just those two things alone, and then in artistic sense, there's certain values to how far of a grade we can bring something out, as it's drying before it starts to collapse. But other than that, your possibilities are limitless to create amazing homes and designs and features that you normally wouldn't necessarily be able to do.
That's awesome. It's such a combination of so many amazing things, and there's different materials too. You can 3D print with concrete, with glass, with wood. I've read about other substrates. There's metal, carbon fiber, expanding foams, microfluidics, which I don't even really understand yet what that is. And of course you have all the different, you have all the different various like plastics and rubbers and different levels of those types of materials. Is there any material that as of now can't be 3D printed, so to speak?
Oh man, I'm sure there definitely is, but I mean, has someone put enough time and energy into trying to print it? Probably not. But yeah, I mean, we print everything. I mean, I've got a regular printer set up in my room that prints and designs, some of our stuff in plastic. Um, just for like that's like a part of a hydroponic setup for us to like create more green vegetables. So like 3D printing is so dynamic in what it can do. But yeah, speaking of all these different materials, the direction that we're trying to move forward in is learning how to create our own geopolymer. So, for example, like the soil content that's out here in Utah is very dry, very sandy. And once you get down, it's very hard, sandstone. So learning how to take, for say, for simplicity, a 5-gallon bucket of dirt from any place, break that down into its formula of chemicals, and be able to know exactly what we need to add to the substrate that is around us to create a geopolymer that we can print and create a home out of.
That's awesome. I actually, that was something I was going to ask you about, which I think is one of the most exciting aspects of 3D home building is printing with on-site materials. So it seems you guys are utilizing that or working towards being able to utilize that method of construction. What are the pros and cons of that, assuming that the on-site materials are viable to use, and describe a little bit that process of you kind of alluded to like the analyzation of the substrate to figure out what needs to be added or maybe subtracted. I don't know. Give us a little insight on how that works and the pros and cons.
Yeah, so the pros would be huge. Just the fact that we can go anywhere in the world and be able to just scoop dirt out that it might even need to be removed or displaced from one area to another. And just being able to use that and be able to create homes is, amazing. We're no longer transporting materials or harvesting, Portland cement or like creating cement. The benefits are astronomical. I'm not necessarily a molecular biologist or, I dabble in chemistry, like organic chemistry a little bit, and that's kind of what got my curiosity into this, even though, JR and Evan have already been kind of diving into this and having some pressure tests done. So there's a lot of variables that have to be considered, especially in a building. So we're learning to, our mixture right now is kind of like your standard Portland cement mixture, other than, we're creating different ratios of things to create more elasticity or faster dry time, so it's setting more rapidly. And so for our natural clay, I think every environmental feature, even in just the United States, will be drastically different. And I think that'll be the biggest challenge. There's this huge opportunity and this huge gold mine for unlimited resources, but there's a very tight door to fit through of like, how do we solve these equations for all these different places? So all of them are going to be drastically different, and learning how to feed these through our machines, it's quite the process. Just learning how to keep something the same consistency that it's actually able to pump, but it's not wet enough that it's not going to fold and fall under pressure. So I don't know. We've just barely dived into that, and it's a very complicated thing, and it's way above my chemistry level. But we've got the people, and we're looking for other people to continue helping develop that.
It seems like it's kind of like the adult version of when you're a kid building a sandcastle on the beach, and like you have to get the sand just right. So it's like not too dry that it doesn't do anything for you, or not too wet that it just falls. It's like You have to get it just wet enough. So is that kind of a good analogy for the process and what it takes to build a structure?
Yeah. Yeah, I love analogies, but it's hard to find something that's comparable to like, there's so many processes that happen as it goes. And, but yes, it is very much like dealing with a sand like consistency and learning how to just add a little bit more water or, a little bit more pressure or have it pump a little bit faster.
Mm.
So learning to make, our consistency the exact way that we want.